Imagine beings of immense cosmic power. Think of entities older than many stars. These are the Watchers. They are a species ancient beyond our comprehension. Their home is a distant galaxy, a place of advanced science and deep thought. Their purpose, self-assigned, is a grand one. They aim to observe all that unfolds across the vast tapestry of the multiverse. They are the universe's chroniclers, its silent witnesses. They gather knowledge, not for conquest, not for gain, but simply to know. It is a profound, almost unimaginable undertaking. These beings possess abilities that would seem godlike to us. They can manipulate energy on a cosmic scale. They can teleport across unimaginable distances in an instant. Their minds can process information from countless worlds simultaneously, yet with all this power they chose a path of restraint. The cornerstone of their ancient society is a strict policy. It is a vow of absolute non-interference. They believe that to meddle in the affairs of other civilizations, no matter how well-intentioned, is to corrupt the natural course of history. This is their most sacred rule. Consider the sheer willpower this requires, to see a world teetering on the brink of disaster, to witness injustice or folly or self-destruction, and to do nothing, to simply record. This is the burden the Watchers carry. They are like cosmic librarians, meticulously cataloging every event, every triumph, every failure. Their archives must contain the stories of countless civilizations, rising and falling like cosmic tides. It is a lonely vigil, a testament to a principle held above all else, at least in theory. But why? Why this dedication to passive observation? What led an entire species so capable, so powerful, to bind themselves with such a stringent oath? This question leads us back, far back into their distant past. It takes us to a time before the vow, a time when their intentions were noble, but their actions led to unforeseen consequences. Their history is not just one of watching, it is also a lesson, a stark reminder of the complexities of intervention even with the purest of motives. This history shaped them and in turn shaped how they view the unfolding drama of existence. Long ago, in the youth of the universe, the Watchers were different. They were not just observers, they felt a responsibility to share their vast knowledge. They saw fledgling races struggling, making mistakes. They believed they could help. They chose a primitive planet named Prosilicans. Its people were intelligent but lacked advanced technology. The Watchers decided to offer them a gift. It was the gift of atomic energy, a power source with immense potential. They envisioned a golden age for the Prosilicans, powered by clean, boundless energy. The Prosilicans were eager learners. They quickly grasped the principles the Watchers taught them. They built great machines and wondrous cities. For a time it seemed the Watchers' intervention was a grand success. The Prosilicans advanced rapidly, their society transformed by this new power. The Watchers looked upon their work with satisfaction, believing they had uplifted a deserving people. They had shared the light of knowledge, and it seemed to be illuminating a brighter future for Prosilicans. This was a moment of pride for the young Watcher race. However, the Prosilicans were not ready for the deeper implications of such power. They used it not just for creation, but also for destruction. Different factions on Prosilicans began to weaponize atomic energy. They turned it against each other in devastating wars. The very gift that was meant to save them became the instrument of their annihilation. The Watchers could only watch in horror as the planet they tried to help descended into a catastrophic global conflict. The Prosilicans, in their greed and fear, unleashed forces they could not control, ultimately destroying their entire civilization. The Watchers were devastated. Their noble intentions had paved a road to ruin. The Prosilican catastrophe became a defining moment in their history. They realized that even well-meaning interference could have disastrous, unintended consequences. The universe, they concluded, must find its own path. From the ashes of Prosilicans, a solemn vow was taken. Never again would they interfere. Never again would they give their knowledge, their power to other races. They would only watch. They would only record. This became the Watchers' sacred, unbreakable oath. One Watcher, however, found this vow particularly challenging. His name was Uatu. He was assigned to observe Sector 2814, a relatively unremarkable spiral galaxy. Within this galaxy was a small blue planet teeming with nascent life Earth. Uatu became fascinated by humanity. He saw our potential, our creativity, our courage. He also saw our capacity for self-destruction, our wars, our struggles. Earth, with its vibrant and chaotic development, became his personal obsession. He built his home on Earth's moon, a silent sentinel overlooking our world. Uatu's fascination often pushed the boundaries of the Watchers' non-interference pact. He found himself drawn to pivotal moments in Earth's history. He was particularly captivated by the rise of superpowered individuals, the Age of Heroes. He first broke his vow, albeit subtly, when the Fantastic Four emerged. He witnessed their cosmic ray accident, their transformation. He saw them as a significant development. He felt a connection to these nascent explorers of the unknown, perhaps seeing a reflection of his own species' innate curiosity before the Prosilican tragedy hardened their resolve. His most famous intervention involved the cosmic entity Galactus, the devourer of worlds. Galactus arrived to consume Earth. Uatu knew this. His vow demanded he remain silent, yet he could not stand by and watch Earth be destroyed. He chose to help the Fantastic Four. He revealed Galactus's weakness. He provided them with the means to find the ultimate nullifier, a weapon capable of stopping the devourer. This act saved Earth, but it was a clear violation of his sacred oath. The repercussions for Uatu would be significant. Uatu's actions did not go unnoticed by his own kind. His repeated, albeit often indirect, interactions with Earth's heroes put him at odds with the Watcher Collective. He warned humanity of impending threats. He offered cryptic clues. He sometimes even physically intervened in minor ways. Each instance was a gamble, a delicate balance between his duty to observe and his growing empathy for the planet under his watch. This internal conflict defined Uatu. Was he a renegade, or was he simply a watcher with a more compassionate understanding of the vow's true spirit? Uatu's repeated breaches of the non-interference vow eventually led to severe consequences. His own people, the Watchers, could no longer ignore his actions. They convened a formal trial. Uatu was brought before a council of his peers to answer for his transgressions. The charge was clear. He had interfered in the affairs of a lesser species, specifically humanity. The evidence was overwhelming. His interactions with the Fantastic Four, his warnings about Galactus, and numerous other subtle interventions were all brought to light. His defense was that Earth was special, that humanity had unique potential. During the trial, a startling truth began to emerge. Uatu argued that his actions, while technically violations, were often necessary. He claimed he acted to prevent greater catastrophes that could have ripple effects across the cosmos. He pointed to the inherent paradox of their vow. Can one truly observe the destruction of potential without feeling a moral imperative to act? His words resonated with some, but the law was the law. The Watchers prided themselves on their unwavering commitment to their ancient oath, an oath born from a terrible mistake they were determined never to repeat. The most shocking revelation of the trial was not Uatu's guilt, which was largely predetermined by his own admissions. Instead, it was the discovery that Uatu was not alone in his transgressions. As the proceedings unfolded, evidence and testimony suggested that many other Watchers had also subtly, or not so subtly, interfered in the affairs of the civilizations they observed. It seemed the vow of non-interference, while publicly proclaimed as absolute, was privately interpreted with a degree of flexibility by many. The ideal was pure, but the practice was far more complicated. This discovery sent ripples of unease through the Watcher Society. If Uatu was guilty, then so were many others. It suggested a systemic hypocrisy, or perhaps a fundamental flaw in the practicality of their sacred vow when faced with the sheer diversity and drama of the multiverse. Uatu was ultimately found guilty, as expected. His punishment varied over time, sometimes involving exile or limitations on his abilities. But the trial exposed a crack in the monolithic facade of the Watchers. Their perfect, detached observation was perhaps more of an aspiration than a consistent reality across their ranks. Section 5. Beyond Mere Sight, the Arrival of the Critics. The Watchers were not the only cosmic beings dedicated to observation, though they were certainly the most well-known for their non-interference policy. At some point, another group emerged, or perhaps became known to the wider cosmos. These beings were known as the Critics. They were an offshoot, a splinter group, or perhaps an entirely different species with a similar cosmic purpose, but a starkly different methodology. Where the Watchers vowed to merely observe and record, the Critics took a more active, if somewhat bizarre, approach to their task. The Critics did not believe in passive observation. They believed that true understanding of an event or a civilization required a different kind of engagement. Their method was unique. They would select a being, often someone directly involved in a pivotal cosmic event, and force them to relive that event. They would then dissect the being's choices, motivations, and the consequences of their actions. often in a highly judgmental and, as their name implies, critical manner. Their goal seemed to be to analyze and evaluate cosmic history, not just record it. Their methods were often intrusive and psychologically taxing for those they chose as subjects. Imagine being forced to experience your greatest triumphs or most devastating failures over and over, while powerful cosmic entities pick apart your every decision. The critics were less like silent librarians, and more like cosmic adjudicators, or perhaps overly enthusiastic, and sometimes harsh drama reviewers on a multiversal scale. Their purpose was not to help or hinder, but to understand through a form of interactive, almost invasive reenactment and analysis. This put them in a strange category, neither pure observers nor direct interveners in the traditional sense. The relationship between the critics and the watchers is not entirely clear. Did the watchers approve of the critics' methods? Did they see them as a perversion of the observational ideal, or perhaps a necessary alternative perspective? The critics represented a different philosophy, that observation without analysis, without judgment, was incomplete. While the watchers sought to preserve the timeline by not touching it, the critics sought to understand it by replaying and dissecting its key moments, using living beings as their instruments of study. Their existence added another layer of complexity to the cosmic game of watching the multiverse unfold. Section 6, A Son's Burden, Uatu's Quest to Redeem His Father. Uatu's story is deeply intertwined with his father, Ikor. It was Ikor who originally proposed the idea of sharing technology with the Prosilicans. This was the event that led to the Prosilican catastrophe and the Watcher's vow of non-interference. Ikor's intentions were noble. He believed in uplifting other races. He saw the Watcher's vast knowledge as a gift to be shared. However, the disastrous outcome on Prosilicus forever stained his legacy. He became a symbol of well-intentioned folly, the architect of the tragedy that defined the Watcher's most sacred law. This history weighed heavily on Uatu. He lived in the shadow of his father's perceived failure. While the Watchers collectively learned a lesson from Prosilicus, Uatu seemed to carry a more personal burden. He felt a deep need to understand, and perhaps even vindicate, his father's actions. He believed that Ikor's vision was not entirely wrong, but perhaps the execution or the specific circumstances were flawed. This familial connection might explain some of Uatu's own deviations from the non-interference policy. He was constantly wrestling with the legacy of intervention. Uatu's quest for vindication was not a simple one. It involved a deep exploration of possibilities, not just in his own universe, but across the vast multiverse. He began to search alternate realities. He looked for timelines where his father's plan or similar interventions might have yielded positive outcomes. He sought evidence that sharing knowledge, when done correctly, could indeed lead to prosperity and not destruction. This was a lonely and perhaps obsessive quest, driven by a son's desire to clear his father's name and to reconcile the noble dream with the harsh reality. This personal vendetta added another layer to Uatu's character. He was not just a curious observer of Earth, he was also a son grappling with a complex family history and a philosophical dilemma. His search across alternate realities showed his dedication. It also highlighted the Watcher's unique access to the multiverse's myriad possibilities. Did he find what he was looking for? Did he discover realities where intervention was a success? The answer remains complex, but his quest demonstrates the enduring power of hope and the deep-seated need to learn from the past, even a past as tragic as Prosilicus. Section 7, When Silence Breaks, the Watchers Against Omegex. Despite their vow of non-interference, there have been moments when the threat was so great, so existentially dire, that even the Watchers were compelled to act collectively. One such instance involved a terrifying cosmic entity known as Omegex. Omegex was not a conqueror in the traditional sense. It was more like a force of nature, a sentient weapon of immense power. Its sole purpose seemed to be the utter annihilation of entire civilizations, leaving nothing but cosmic dust in its wake. It was a world-ender, a threat to the very fabric of existence. When Omegex targeted a world under the Watcher's observation, the usual protocols were tested to their absolute limit. This was not a case of a civilization making internal mistakes. This was an external, overwhelming force of destruction. To stand by and merely record the eradication of a species by such a malevolent power seemed to stretch the non-interference vow beyond its ethical breaking point. The Watchers, for all their detachment, possessed a deep understanding of life's preciousness. They had cataloged countless unique cultures and biospheres across the eons. In the face of Omegex, a different kind of intervention occurred. It wasn't about guiding a civilization's development, it was about preventing total, senseless obliteration. The Watchers, including Uatu, understood that if Omegex was left unchecked, it could potentially threaten countless worlds, perhaps even their own. The details of their actions against Omegex show a rare instance of coordinated effort. They pooled their immense cosmic powers not to guide, but to defend. This was a significant departure from their usual passive stance, a clear indication that some threats transcend even their most sacred rules. This event raises profound questions about their policy. If intervention is permissible against an entity like Omegex, where is the line drawn? Does the scale of the threat determine the validity of breaking the vow? The Watchers' actions against Omegex suggest that their non-interference policy, while foundational, is not entirely immutable. It can bend or even break when faced with a danger that threatens the fundamental existence of life on a grand scale. It shows that even for these ancient Stoic observers, there are moments when watching is simply not enough, and action becomes a cosmic necessity. Section 8. Ripples in the Cosmic Pond. The multiversal impact. The Watchers, by their very nature, exist in a state of paradox. Their vow is to not interfere, yet their presence alone can sometimes be a form of interference. Imagine a young civilization suddenly becoming aware that a vastly powerful cosmic being is observing them. This knowledge itself could alter their development, their choices, their beliefs. The simple act of being watched can change the observed. Uatu's frequent presence near Earth, for example, certainly did not go unnoticed by humanity's more perceptive individuals and organizations, creating ripples of speculation and sometimes even direct interaction. When a Watcher, like Uatu, chooses to actively break the vow, the consequences can be immense, echoing across realities. Saving Earth from Galactus, for instance, had profound implications. It preserved a planet that would go on to play a significant role in many cosmic events. But what if Earth's destruction was a natural part of its cosmic destiny? What unforeseen consequences might arise from its survival? Each intervention, no matter how well-intentioned, sets a new course for history, a new branch in the ever-expanding tree of the multiverse. The Watchers, in these moments, become cosmic gardeners, pruning and shaping reality, intentionally or not. Even their inaction has an impact. By choosing not to intervene in a planetary war or a natural disaster or the rise of a tyrant, they allow events to unfold naturally. But this natural unfolding can lead to immense suffering or the loss of unique civilizations. Is there a moral culpability in possessing the power to prevent tragedy and choosing not to use it? This is the ethical tightrope the Watchers walk. Their inaction is a form of action, a decision to let the universe take its course, for better or worse. The weight of countless unspoken what-ifs must rest heavily upon their ancient consciousness. The collective knowledge gathered by the Watchers is perhaps their greatest, unspoken impact. They hold the history of the multiverse. If this knowledge were ever to be fully unleashed, or if their archives were compromised, the effect would be unimaginable. They are the ultimate gatekeepers of cosmic secrets. Their very existence, their vast library of observed events, shapes the understanding of the cosmos for those few who are aware of their full scope. They are a constant reminder of the scale of time and space, and of the countless stories playing out beyond our limited perception. Section 9. The eternal question, to interfere or to witness. The story of the Watchers is, at its heart, a story about a fundamental ongoing conflict. It is the conflict between the desire to help and the wisdom of restraint. It is the tension between compassion and principle. Their vow of non-interference, born from the tragic lesson of Prosilicans, is a noble ideal. It recognizes the complexity of cause and effect on a cosmic scale. It acknowledges that even the best intentions can lead to unforeseen disasters when dealing with the delicate evolution of civilizations across the multiverse. Yet, the multiverse is not a static, predictable place. It is filled with chaos, with unexpected threats, and with moments of profound moral challenge. Uatu's struggles exemplify this. His empathy for Earth, his willingness to bend or break the rules, highlights the difficulty of maintaining absolute detachment when faced with imminent destruction or extraordinary potential. Are there moments when the spirit of the law, the preservation of life and knowledge, should override the letter of the law? This is the question Uatu, and perhaps many watchers, silently ponder as they gaze across the stars. The existence of groups like the critics, and the revelation of widespread, if subtle, interference by other watchers, suggests that the non-interference policy is perhaps more of a guiding philosophy than an unbreakable directive for all. It may be that the very act of observing a dynamic, evolving multiverse inevitably leads to interaction, whether intended or not. The fabric of reality is interconnected. To be a part of it, even as a silent witness, is to influence it in some small way. The Watchers, for all their power, cannot escape this fundamental truth of existence. Ultimately, the Watchers serve as a cosmic mirror. They reflect our own struggles with power, responsibility, and the consequences of our actions. Their eternal dilemma, to watch or to act, resonates with anyone who has ever faced a difficult choice with far-reaching implications. The multiverse continues to unfold, a grand, unending story, and the Watchers remain gazing into its depths, forever caught between their solemn vow and the irresistible call of the unfolding drama. Their vigil continues shaping and being shaped by the infinite possibilities of all that is, was, and ever could be.